$365 a year, which is to remind ourselves $1 a day that this is what it takes in order to change the world. And the second is $36.50. And we also have scholarships available for people who can't afford that, including this man who wrote to me from the Buddha Durham refugee camp in Ghana. Our membership consists entirely of mediators, mediation, conflict resolution students. We have chapters now. We started we're only a year ago. Now just a year and a couple of months ago. Thanks, TJ. We now have over 250 members. We have a project in Ghana and Liberia, a project in New Orleans and Mississippi, a project working with Somali refugees, and a bunch of projects in the waiting, including one working with Native American, First Nation youth to build conflict resolution capacity, because if we're without borders, that means the U.S. as well. So we'll be working with Native American kids to create conflict resolution programs that they can work on. We have a project that's being formed for Nepal. Now that the elections have been held, the Maoists have won a majority. There's going to be a new situation in terms of Nepal, but here's how they've used conflict resolution skills. C.J. Larkin, who's on our board of directors, who teaches at Washington University, trained women in how to mediate spousal battering cases in villages in Nepal. And there are hundreds of women who have gotten together, trained themselves as mediators, and actually jointly, using the force and the power of community opinion, have stopped spousal battering in a significant number of villages in Nepal. She's going to be going back in June. We have a group of people who want to work in this rainforest in Ecuador that I was talking about earlier, and a group of people who are going off to Colombia to a conference taking place in Cartagena within a couple of weeks. We have a group of people who want to create a project in Sri Lanka. Another couple of people who want to do something in East Timor. One woman only so far who wants to work in Cambodia. What can we do? We can help them do research. We've created a thing that we call the Conflictpedia, which is like Wikipedia, and we're working with Guy and Heidi Burgess to translate a lot of their materials into this new idea, which is anybody can have access to it. It's available to people around the planet. We're putting all kinds of training materials online so people can go online and download it. They can research anthropological information to find out what is happening in different cultures around the world. Student chapters, university chapters can contribute to this Conflictpedia thing. And people in the field working in New Orleans can debrief about what their experience was working with Katrina victims using this format. So there are dozens and dozens of ways. The Sufi poet Rumi said it best in the 13th century, I guess it was. He said, there are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. But in this case, what we were talking about is, kind of kissing each other, embracing each other, welcoming each other, recognizing that we are one human family. And we have to find ways for us to talk with each other. In my mind, this work will never end. I don't think we'll ever be done with it. More seriously, will we solve the environmental problems that I identified? Frankly, I don't know. It's an open question whether we will solve them or not. But if we're going to fail, I want to know that I tried. And every time there's some violence on the planet, every time there's war, it's a reminder of how much we have to do and how far we have to go. However, it all begins with us. And I hope it starts right now. So I hope this is useful to you. I hope you will become involved, if not with MBB, with any of the other organizations that are working to try to promote peace and collaboration around the world. We happen to have a skill that is immensely useful in doing that. And it's our responsibility, once we have the knowledge and that skill, to assist others in doing that as well. So go out and save the planet. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. TJ, what's our schedule now? Are we open for questions, comments, diatribes, lengthy speeches, emotional tirades, whatever it is that you'd like? Questions, comments, difficulties? Yes.
We'll get you the mic. I don't have a question, but if we like to have the questions recorded on the tape. So if you raise your hand, if you have a question, we'll get a mic to you.
And let me also say, this is not just questions. You can talk with each other. We can talk together. So it's okay. It doesn't have to be me I'm not the expert in this. Maybe the only thing that entitles me to be here is that I've simply failed more often than most of you have in efforts to try to make these things happen. Yes?
Is this on? Okay, good. In your failings, just kidding, what would you recommend to people as the one resource / book, other than the one you're just writing? Okay.
The one resource?
That to the general public, not to ADR practitioners.
The one book for the general public. Yeah, no, I don't. You have one?
Yeah, after the Bible.
I see.
I think your Crossroads of Conflict is really readable
she said other
for the
than
general.
one that I've written.
Oh, no. She was talking about conflict resolution.
Oh, I thought you meant other than one that I've written.
No.
Well, okay, Nan says it's the book that I wrote just before this one called The Crossroads of Conflict, A Journey into the Heart of Dispute Resolution. And probably maybe the reason for that is because every chapter is followed by a case study, some of which were about failures of mediation that I did, ones that didn't work, ones that did and were incredibly transformational. But it's also really about the problem of heart and spirit in relationship to conflict resolution. And what I try to do is to come up with a perhaps not mathematically rigorous, but at least close, a logically rigorous way of demonstrating that, well, the title of one of the chapters is Why Every Conflict Breaks Your Heart. And another one is Conflict as a Spiritual Path.
And the subtitle?
And I believe both of those things to be true. Huh?
And your subtitle to that book? A
is
Journey to the Heart.
A Journey into the Heart. So, but here's actually what it's about. And for those of you who have not been trained in mediation, I want to see if I can say this in the right way. If you think about what levels of conversation people want to have about their conflicts, it's very obvious that people begin at a relatively superficial, just wanting the other person to go away. They want to escape it, and that is actually recognized in technique through the method of caucusing, or just very simply to those who haven't been trained in mediation, to just separating people and talking to them in a quiet tone of voice and listening to them and to their stories. The second level of what they want is they want to settle the issues. They want to get rid of these things that they're disagreeing about. And we have a whole bunch of techniques for doing that. Techniques of analyzing the issues, brainstorming, a whole bunch of techniques for looking at how to settle the issues. The third thing that they want is they want some form of emotional completion. And we have techniques even for that. But here's where we begin to start to get into an area that is more difficult for people to understand and is just a little bit beyond most of the mediations that people are conducting. However, I can demonstrate to you very easily, if you need convincing, that every conflict has an emotional component. And I think I can prove this to you, that you don't have a conflict without emotion, without what we call negative